Okay, so in the last class, we did a lot to get our animation started, and we were learning the animation workflow, right? So that has to do with having two Photoshop files, an assets file and a stage file. So if you haven't done that yet, you can always refer back to these videos, how to set up your stage, but I can also review as I pull up my files to work on it. We have posted in the assignment our storyboard sketch, and though this assignment isn't due until next class, it's always good to post something early to acknowledge the deadline. And so you go to assignment 3 and you post here. Also under assignments, you'll see the link to this Digital Honors Mentorship presentation on how to use freeware if you want to practice your animation skills for free just on browser-based software, using Photopea to make your frames, and then using this site, easygif.com maker, you can see them there, to set the timing. So just a reminder if you want to practice this, because it does take some doing in order to get a handle on it. But for the class, we get to use the powerful program of Photoshop. We get to work in full screen resolution, kind of HD screen resolution. So the images we're posting, the animations we're posting are going to be 8 by 8 inches by 100 pixels per inch. So this was my storyboard sketch. I ask you to have your storyboard sketch out. So when I help you, I can kind of know what transformation you're trying to work towards, and so that you can be reminded what you're working towards, because animation is all about planning. So I'm going to, even though mine's digital, I'm just going to turn it on here. That's our plan. That's what we're trying to accomplish. And then put it off to the side. And then you'll see I have two PSD files. First, I'm going to open up my assets file. I got to make sure I have all my tools, all right? And your assets file is going to have tons of layers, right? I have layers for my background. I put those in purple. You know, this is how I'm making the sky lighter and darker. I have mist that I am transforming and moving ever so slightly, frame to frame. And then I'm starting to build up, you know, this kind of movement cycle of this character. So this is where I left off. Now, I open up my stage file. And they should go right next to each other. So my stage is only going to have finished animation frames in it. And that way you can kind of test your animation as you go. So I can see from the beginning, the mist is kind of just moving off to the left, and this little shadow of a creature is starting to appear. And then my guy comes in, and this is where I left off. Also, the sky starts to deepen. So you're going to choose what aspects of your animation you want to work on for each new frame. So I have I have 4 different areas of animation I have to work on for each frame. And that is my guy, my creature, my mist, and my sky. My guy, my creature, my mist, my sky. Sometimes, like if you're actually working in a professional workflow, you'll have checklists, right? Because you don't want to accidentally miss anything as you're building your story. Okay, so going back to assets, I find this helpful. Go ahead and put guides on your assets layer. To make guides, again, all you do is you use your rulers. So Command R if your rulers aren't there, and they'll appear. And then you just click and drag with the move tool and put guides around it. Why? Because that's an easy way to tell very quickly if you're on your stage or if you're on your assets. Do not put guides on your stage. And sometimes it can be nice to have your rulers turned off for your stage. So even though they're the same size, they have a little bit of visual difference, right? Okay, the next thing is I need to build up my next scene. So I can always flip between these, like an animator flipping their their tracing paper and seeing what they did before. This is the last frame I set up. This is the one I'm working on. What do I need to do? Well, I'm going to start with the guy. That's the most obvious. So the guy's going to move to here. Oh, wait. I had an eye asset I might not have used. Let's see. Sure enough. So I'm going to redo this last frame with the eyes. There we go, because I moved his eyes a little bit. You see that? So simple. Boom, boom, boom. So I'm going to turn that eye asset on, and I'm going to redo this frame. So what do? I go to my stage, and I'm going to cut this from the film. This frame needs to be redone because the eyes aren't moving the way I want them to. So I delete it. I cut it from the film. Then I go back to my assets, and I'm going to reshoot it. So I've now indicated the eyes. Everything else is the same. I go to my topmost visible layer. I hold down Option. I say Layer, Merge Visible. I hit Command A to select it all, Command C to copy it all. Click on the stage, Command V to paste in my next film strip. And now the eyes move a tiny bit. It's going to be subtle, but those kind of things help with your storytelling. Then I go back to my assets. I hit Command D to deselect, and then delete to clear that merged layer so I can build my next frame. All right, so what's next? I'm going to turn on the next guy. And my creature. I should have color-coded here. It's going to be this one. Moves in. And the mist just keeps moving off. Just a little bit. And the sky deepens. So, how can I test them side by side? I'll turn off my rulers just so they're lined up. So from this to this. Oh, got to turn off this guy, obviously. From this to this is my next movement. And I'm just looking at the sky. And it does get a little bit deeper. Okay. Now, how do I move this frame over? I go to my topmost visible layer. And this is the animation workflow that we're going to be doing over and over again. I want you to remember it. And of course, you're going to be doing it a lot. So you'll learn it kind of through muscle memory. But if you ever have to check yourself, if you go to the assignment, I have it right here in the assignment. If you wanted to save that, put it on your desktop, open it in preview, you can. I also have it up on the whiteboard, right? So in assets, I'm going to do this stuff. So if I show you what I mean, open it up in preview, put it off to the side here. We're doing this workflow over and over and over again. And it requires you to have those two Photoshop files, the assets and the stage file. This is for non-destructive frame building. So, pretty straightforward. I'll set up my shop here. So what's the first step? I've set up my desired frame. Yes, I've accounted for all my 4 variables that change frame by frame. Then I click on the top visible layer. My other trick is to always give yourself a top visible layer. So if you don't have something at the top that's always visible, just make a blank layer, mark it red, and just call it top visible. Why do you need that? Well, in order to merge visible layers, you need to be selected on a visible layer, right? Doesn't matter if there's any pixels in it or not. It just needs to have the eyeball turned on. So I click on the top visible layer in my assets. Then I hold down Option. While I'm holding down Option, I go to Layer, Merge Visible. So layer at the top of the Photoshop screen, scroll down to Merge Visible. There is a shortcut for it, but the merge visible shortcut is a 3-key shortcut, and you have to hold Option. So the 4-key shortcuts are a little unreliable. So I just always go to Layer and Scroll. Now you'll see it merged at the top there. Actually, that's interesting. Did something I didn't expect it to. But I hold down Option and I say Layer, Merge Visible. Then you're going to say Command A, Command C to copy it, go to your stage, Command V to paste it in. And as long as you don't mess too much with your stage while you're doing this, it will always paste it in on top. And it will name them in order. So Layer 1, Layer 2, Layer 3, Layer 4, Layer 5. Why? Because when you paste in, it will always paste over the last selected layer, over the top. So try not to mess too much with your stage until you're running animation tests. Right. So a pretty big movement there, but you can see the mist moves, the guy moves, the creature moves, and the sky just deepens a tiny bit. Okay, now I'm back in my assets, and I have to hit Command D to get rid of these marching ants on my combined layer. Command D, and then delete. That clears it so I can set up the next frame. So now I start again with step 0, set up my desired frame. My creature moves that much. My guy is now getting pinched, right, by the creature. And there are little exclamation effects. I want to see what my next creature thing is. Oh yeah, and then my creature is going to recoil. Good. Okay, so I'm actually going to do this. This is kind of fun. I'm going to take the opacity down on these effects. This might look cheesy, but we'll see. So I'll put it at like 25% opacity. Because you can play with layer styles. You can play with opacities, frame to frame, and still have all the assets you need. All right, now I've played with the creature and the guy. Now I gotta play with the mist. Still moving off a bit. And I gotta deepen the sky. Or in this case, I'm gonna start walking the sky back a little bit. Because I don't want to have endless sky darkening. I just want it to change very slightly. Okay, now I've set it all up. I go to my topmost visible layer, hold down Option, Layer, Merge Visible. Gives me a new combined layer. Command A to select it all, Command C to copy it all, Command V to paste it in. Right now, I have to build a new asset because now he's going to react. So go back to my assets, Command D to deselect, delete to clear that frame. I know what my creature's doing. He's kind of recoiling from this, surprised. And then what am I going to do? I'm going to put this exclamation mark at 100%. Right. And I'm going to duplicate my screaming guy. And then I'm going to puppet warp him. Or I could just transform him, or I could just rotate him. But I'm going to stretch him. To really show that he's kind of taken aback, right? And I'm going to play with the color a little bit. So I'm going to use the magic wand. I'm going to select with contiguous turned off all of this skin tone. Right? And then I'm going to go to image adjustments because this is a rasterized asset. And I'm going to go straight to hue saturation. And I'm just going to play with making him a little pale looking. Right? So he's starting to get kind of scared and reacting. Could even desaturate it a bit. All right, now I can turn this one off. And what's next? The mist. The mist is almost all the way off screen, and once it's off screen, whoops. Gotta use the move tool